Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Mike Calvanese. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Brink, and here to talk about Brink today, decentralized automation, and how this relates to Dows, of course. So a little bit about me. Co-founder, CEO of Brink, formerly co-founder of Level K. We were a smart contract security auditing firm. I spent a lot of time working on futarchy governance through grants from Gnosis and Aragon. So my background's technical. I'm an engineer, built a lot of DAO-related things. Futarchy governance, kind of experimental governance model. So what is decentralized automation? It's a new concept for most of you, I'm sure, and why do we need it? That's kind of going to be the focus of this talk. So, a couple questions. On-chain right now, if you're talking about like, Ethereum transactions or like really any like layer 1 or layer 2 blockchain transaction, can I do something like this? Can I set a token swap to happen in the future if a price is hit in that market? And the answer is no, you cannot do this. You can't do it natively to blockchains. It's just not a property that exists. Every transaction kind of happens point in time. You submit a transaction and it is executed. So can I set a transaction to be executed when a condition is met? No, you cannot do this. It's something that cannot be done on blockchains right now. What about on L2s and side chains? Same thing. You can't do it on L2s. There's nothing different about the way that transactions work on L2s than on L1s. The only way you can do this is like basically build your own bot that like watches on-chain state and then takes some action for you, like through your address, when that on-chain state that you're looking for is met. And obviously this is like a huge amount of effort for users. Like unless you're super technical developer, able to run your own infrastructure, then it's not something that you would do. A lot of people do it, but most like normal users of these things would not do this. So what we're building as a solution to this at Brink is what we're calling an automated execution network. And this is a pretty new concept. There are a few other teams working on this. We're actually doing a panel later today with some of the teams that are building similar solutions to this problem. But what an automated execution network basically allows you to do is conditionally deferred execution of transactions. So you can think of it like a stop loss order and a limit order are kind of like the simplest use case of this. And that's like things that are pretty normal in like centralized exchanges, commonly used in obviously like traditional finance, but it's just not a native thing that you can do in DeFi and crypto. So there's no like fully decentralized native way to do stop loss and limit, or really any conditional action. So the automated execution network that we're building is a completely decentralized and open protocol. So any address can kind of create an action and say, I want this action to be executed in the future, and then any other address can pick that up and execute that when when the conditions are met. And all of this happens through this open platform in a way that's actually gas-free, so you can create these orders or kind of like tasks to be executed in the future. To create one doesn't cost anything. You don't pay the fee until it actually gets executed. So that's a really interesting property of like automated execution networks. So that's all a lot of technical info. Like what can we actually do with this? And then we're at a DAO conference, so Like, well, how does this relate to DAOs? How can DAOs use this? Can they use it? The answer is yes, they can. So I'll just go through like a couple kind of practical use cases of this. I mentioned like limit and stop loss orders. This is like kind of the base use case for this automation. So something like you have a condition. What's the condition? The price of ETH USDC market moves like above or below a threshold. So let's say like 4,000 USDC for ETH, for one ETH. You set that condition, and then that might happen at any point in the future. It could be, months from now. It could be hours. The execution event here is the swap actually occurs. So this is like you're setting this condition. You're saying, I want this to happen if this thing happens, if the price moves to this level. And then when it is executable, another party can like pick that up, basically, and it's permissionless. So anybody in the world can grab that and execute it on your behalf. So you're basically like it's an abstraction between you and the on-chain world. So you're kind of like putting this transaction up and then saying anybody can execute this for me. I give permissions for this to be executed, and then another party can come in and execute it. So that's like the simple use case is like limit order, stop loss order. But what we've built actually allows this for really any automation type and any condition. So I'll give a few more examples. This is one we hear about all the time. So deposit protection. Obviously, like tons of assets on chain are staked. Like most TVL is like staked, yield bearing in some way. So you have like something like WBTC staked on Yearn and Curve. You can set some condition that says like, okay, I have this stake. If the price of that WBTC relative to a stablecoin like USDC moves above or below this threshold, then to do this execution, then basically like unstake it, swap it, and then even restake it. And that's like, kind of a complex path. Like for you to have to manage, and users are doing this now, like managing it themselves and doing this manually. Like you're watching on-chain conditions, and then when you decide to like, okay, I'm gonna move my stake somewhere, you have to do that manually. So with an automated execution network, you basically just say, okay, these are my parameters. I want this execution path to happen when a price hits this threshold, and then that's just done for you, and it can be done by anyone. And then another example, like that we hear all the time, smart dollar cost averaging. This is like if you just want to kind of do like a continual buy or sell on a time interval based on where the price is. If we're going from like USDC to ETH, I want exposure to ETH, but I don't want it all at once. I want to kind of spread that out over time. Like rather than either writing a bot to do this yourself or writing your own smart contract that does this, you can just sign like a single order that says, I allow this much ETH to be swapped based on these parameters. So we have some somewhat complex parameters here. You sign that, put it out to the network, and then the network just does this for you. So those are just a few examples, but what we built at Brink is actually an open protocol, so anyone can come in and create another automation type, and we anticipate that like thousands and thousands of these will be created. So we've created just a handful of them. So how does this relate to DAOs? So everything that I described in those examples, like you can do that with an EOA, like with your regular address and private key. But we also have added support for basically like smart contract signing. So you can also create those orders with a smart contract. DAOs are smart contract based systems. A DAO can actually create a proposal that ultimately creates an automated order. And this really can optimize certain types of governance proposals. And I will describe just a few examples of that. So with DAO proposals, like governance-based proposals, we heard a few folks talking about that in the previous talks. Tons of DAOs have systems for kind of like token-weighted voting around treasuries, right? So you have some treasury, some fund you're managing in your DAO, and collectively the token holders in that DAO can vote on how to allocate those funds. The proposals generally take weeks or even months in some cases, so there's a delay. So what if you want to do something like a swap? Like you have some ETH that the DAO has accumulated in a treasury, and the DAO wants to do a buyback of their token, their native token, with that ETH. If they create a proposal, a proposal is out there that says, okay, swap all our ETH for this token. Well, that might take a month to pass, and you don't know what the market price is going to be at the end of that month. So what a DAO could do through the Brink Automated Execution Network is, instead of creating a proposal just to do the spot market swap, create a proposal to actually create a limit order instead. So the proposal says, okay, swap this amount of ETH, only if the market price for the ETH to DAO native token it meets a certain threshold or is above a certain threshold. Same thing for stop loss. They could do it below a certain threshold. They could basically set a strategy for managing those funds, and when that proposal passes, instead of actually doing the swap, it would just create this order that basically says, okay, someone else can farm this swap, or someone else can relay it on chain. The DAO's just kind of giving permissions for that. So that avoids this problem of what's the market price going to be when the proposal passes? Another interesting example, dollar cost averaging of these funds. So the DAO could create a proposal to actually create a kind of permissions for doing this dollar cost averaging. So that would be once a week it does a buyback, right? So the proposal would say, allow a certain amount, a certain percentage of our funds to be swapped on this market on a time interval of once per week or once every 2 weeks, and maybe put some parameters around that, if the market is between these prices, and if it goes outside of that range, then just don't do it. So just a couple examples, but the interesting thing about the dollar cost averaging example here is that it's actually multiple executions, granted with one signed set of permissions. So the proposal would be allow this to happen over time, and then the DAO is basically saying, allow this to happen over time, and anybody can do it. We just give these tightly scoped permissions for how to manage this, and that can be executed, as many times as those permissions will allow. Permissions could have an expiry time on it as well. So you could say, just do this for the next 6 months, and then once those 6 months are over, then it's no longer executable. But up until that point, anyone can come in and execute these things. So kind of just to recap, Brink Automation Network is a public and open network. Anybody can create orders on this network. That means any address, any smart contract as well, as long as it supports the signing EIP 1271 that we're using. That includes DAOs as well. DAOs can create orders, something that previously could not have been done. So this is very new. And not only can anyone use it to create orders, but anyone can actually pick these orders up and execute them. So completely permissionless network. Executors do get a fee for relaying the orders. There's an incentive here. but there's no protocol fee built in. It's only individual executor fee. So if you have developers here in the audience, you want to build your own executor, pull these orders off of the network, and find optimal paths to execute them, you can do that, and that's potential profit for you. No profit for the protocol, zero fee protocol. It's free to create orders, so no gas to create them. You don't pay any fee until it actually gets executed. In some cases, it might not get executed at all. If your market price doesn't get hit, if it expires, it's completely free for you. And support for DAOs, as I mentioned, that's one of the most interesting use cases, I think, for what we're building. And yeah, thank you. Forgot about Q&A. That's important. Question, yes. Yeah, okay, so the question was, like, where are orders stored, for one? Right. So the orders are actually, in the case of like EOA signing, they're stored off-chain with like a 1271 signed. It would be stored on-chain, yes. So it'd be like the result of the DAO proposal would basically allow validation of an order, right? So in the case of DAOs, it would be stored on-chain, yes. And then as far as like server uptime, so we're not running any servers for this. So we are running a server that and participating as an executor, but we don't have any special permissions to do that. So if you wanted to set up your own, you can do that as well. And then as for verification of whether this is trustless and working or not, like ultimately everything will get mined on chain, so you can see when it is mined. That's verifiable. But yeah, and as far as like just general verification of the system, all the code's open source, so you can look through it and see how it works. And there's a lot more technical detail. I'd love to talk to you more about it. Yeah. Thanks.